Okay. I sent a couple of messages in the chat. Can everyone see those? Or no?
Oh.
One is a Jamboard link.
I can open the chat, but there doesn't seem to be anything in it when I'm
Okay.
there.
Okay,
I can open, but can't see anything in there either.
Okay, I'll do those again.
Not just me.
No. I tried to be too early and I started the session early in the hopes that I'd be able to get the messages in so that once we start, we can just go ahead. But clearly I got too ahead of myself.
Never pays.
Yes, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this month's Ealing Mental Health Forum. There are a couple of people still coming in, so excuse me if I stop talking mid-conversation to admit people. Yeah, so this is obviously October's forum. There was a slight change in the day that I don't know if everyone knows, those who have attended the forum before would know that it sort of ran on a Friday from, I think it was 12 to 1:30. From the back of other conversations I've had with some forum members, Friday isn't necessarily a good day. The time sort of also overlaps with lunchtime. So I kind of made the decision to change the day to the third Wednesday of every month, and also slightly amend the time. So it's like starts slightly earlier, but finishes, you know, at 1 o'clock where people can go off for their lunch. Also, another thing that I've changed is around sort of how we promote the forum. I know before it was mainly promoted just off the back of the mailing list, but we were seeing a sort of, you know, slow decline in people attending. So I've now decided to promote in other ways, i.e. through our newsletters, and make it a little bit more public so that any groups in Ealing that may be interested in coming can come along. And it's not sort of if you've heard about it through our mailing list and that sort of thing. I know there are some new faces today, so it would be good to sort of do a quick go around for everyone to, you know, introduce yourself and let us know what organisation you're from. I'll call on people. So I'll start with you, Anna.
Great, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Anna Elliott. I am from Ealing Council. I'm in Children's Services, where I am the Supporting Families Coordinator. And just for context, Supporting Families, because you get all those programme names, don't you? Supporting Families is the new name for what was the Troubled Families programme all those years ago. I'm happy to say that it finally got changed to something more suitable. And my programme works with families who are experiencing multiple and complex needs, and part of that of course is around mental health, adults and children, but it could be around education, getting kids to school, crime and social behaviour, keeping children safe, domestic abuse, housing, finance, improved family relationships, and worklessness, and various other bits and pieces. That's me.
Thank you, Anna. Gina?
Thanks, Whitley. Hi, everybody. A couple of familiar faces here and some new faces, which is, sorry, I'm in a big office here. It's getting a bit noisy.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah, it's great to see the new faces. So I'm Gina. I work with West London NHS with the Employment Support Services, Vocational Services. And my bit of the piece is working with people who are employed but struggling for one reason or another. So Jan works in the other part. So he can explain about what he does, but we take referrals within the Mint teams. And yeah, and if it could be anything that they're struggling with at work, but we try to support them with various strategies, etc., working with the employer, etc.
Great, thank you, Gina. Lucy?
Hi there. I'm Lucy Clark from Mind Food, and we're a small charity, an outdoor charity. So we help people with stress, depression, and anxiety, and isolation, and increasingly more complex difficulties by reconnecting them with nature and teaching evidence-based tips and techniques to help with well-being. People get to take home veg that they've helped to grow, get a free trip to Kew Gardens at the end, and if they find that their time with Mind Food's really helping them, then they can keep gardening with us, or they can try some naturally creative art sessions. They could try some, we've got a men's group, we've got online sessions for people who are stuck at home. So it's really about giving people ongoing support, and all our sessions are run by people who started out at Mind Food as participants, so we kind of know how it goes. So befriending is quite a big part of what we do as well. Just there's a lot of cajoling and coaxing people out of their homes and into the garden.
Exactly. Thank you, Lucy. Marila? I don't know if I said that correctly.
Yes, hello everyone.
Thank
Hello,
you.
Whitley. Thank
Hi.
you. So my name is Marilla, and I am a welfare advisor for East European Resource Center. Our office is in Hammersmith at the Polish Center in King Street, but we support East European migrants from all over the UK, and we have a large group of clients from the Ealing and Hounslow boroughs as well. We offer help with understanding migrants' rights, support with welfare and benefit advice, solving housing problems, providing immigration advice, supporting women facing domestic violence, and advocating for victims of hate crime. We don't, at this moment, we don't offer mental health support directly, but we recently find that we have a lot of people from our community facing mental health challenges, and we are trying hard to connect with mental health organizations. So why I'm here, and thank you.
Thank you. Kulbir?
Hi, I'm Kulbir Randhawa from the Asian Family Counseling Service. We provide individual, couple, and family counseling to the Asian community in various Asian languages such as Hindi, Punjabi, Urdu, and Gujarati. We've been based in Ealing since 1985, so it's been a long time.
Great, thank you. Bushra?
Hi everyone, I'm Bushra Anwar. I'm the Mental Health Commissioner for Ealing. So so many familiar faces here. It's really lovely to see everyone. I will have to unfortunately give my apologies at 12 o'clock. I need to leave for another meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. Donna, don't worry, I haven't missed you. I'll leave you until last. Jan? I don't know if I said that correctly.
Hi, I'm Jan Merck. I'm with the West London NHS Trust, and I'm working in Ealing and Acton as an employment specialist, working with the Mint mental health team.
Great, thank you. Tamara, I won't call on you because you've said your audio isn't working, but Tamara is from each. Jennifer? Oh, you're on mute, Jennifer.
My name is Jennifer. I work in Kensington, Chelsea, and Westminster Older People Mental Health Service, and I also represent the Ealing Petra Church that operates out of the community center in Perivale, and we support various ages as part of the community service.
Thank you. Steve?
Hi, I'm Steve Kyle. I'm the Recovery Support Service Manager for each counselling support, which means I'm responsible for housing-related support and mental health services primarily across West London.
Great, thank you. Susan, her audio also isn't working. So just to say, Susan is a dementia link leader from Dementia Concern. Jojo?
Hello everyone. My name is Jojo. I'm coming from East, but right now I'm in a new role that is in 14 support team as a support worker. Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Thank you. The last person I've got, T. Dunlop.
Hi all.
Hi.
I work with West London, same as Jan actually, but in the Northolt site. So yeah, so we help support people back into paid employment.
Okay, great. Thank you all for the introductions. I should probably introduce myself for those who haven't met me yet. So I'm Whitley. I am the volunteering manager at Ealing and Hounslow CVS. So I support on all things volunteering in both Ealing and Hounslow boroughs. So part of my role is to support organisations in getting volunteers, creating role descriptions and providing them with training and such. And then I also support residents in finding adequate volunteering opportunities and training around that as well. I also facilitate this meeting, hence why I'm here. So yeah, I do different things within the organisation. So I'm sure if you haven't heard of me in the mental health forum context, you've probably received an email of some sort from me around something as part of Ealing and Hounslow CVS. Donna, would you like to introduce yourself? I know you've got a talk on the agenda, so you can go ahead with that.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Donna. So I'm one of the Dementia Link workers working at Dementia Concern. So I work with Susan, who's also online at the moment. So Dementia Concern, hopefully a lot of you would have already heard of us. So obviously we're a charity, we've been in Ealing only. We've been up and running for, I think it's about 30 years now. So quite a long time. I work specifically in the Dementia Link team. The Dementia Link team are contracted by the NHS, and as such, we receive our referrals directly from the SIDS teams, which is the Cognitive Impairment and Dementia Service. We get those referrals from Elm Lodge and Sycamore Lodge. And basically, the referrals come to us. There's 7 of us in the team. And we have to basically monitor and support and review people that have been diagnosed with dementia and are on medication, or in some cases not on medication. So we work very closely with the GPs as well. There's 7 networks, so each of us are aligned to a different network. We work with the GPs to primarily check that there's nothing physically going on with the person. Once we know that there's nothing physically wrong with an individual, if the dementia is still unstable, at that point we then refer back to Sycamore or Elm for a bit more clinical advice and support. So that's kind of the Dementia Link service. We also do cognitive testing on people as well, mostly, well, only for people that are on medication. And if there are concerns, like I said, we liaise back with the clinicians. So we're not clinically trained, but we're all very, very experienced in dementia, and we've got a number of different qualifications and backgrounds between us that kind of, you know, give us that experience and knowledge to kind of know what we're doing. The other services within Dementia Concern that we have a weekend social club. So the social club is by referral only. This is also a charged for service. It used to be totally free, but unfortunately our funding got cut some time ago, and it meant that if we were not going to start charging for the service, then it wouldn't be viable anymore. So we did have to start charging. We have Sycamore Lodge and Elm Lodge. So Sycamore Lodge is at the east side of the borough in Acton. and we have Elm Lodge, which is at the other side of the borough. So this is either a Saturday or a Sunday that people can come along to. It gives the carer a break, obviously, but primarily it's for the person with dementia, to help keep them stimulated, give them a bit of activity, get them out of the four walls, that kind of thing. So that's quite, you know, a needed service. We also have community support services in our organisation. These are completely free. So, but again, referral only. So if somebody's interested in that particular service, then they'd need to be referred into the charity, they'd need to be assessed, and then we would refer them on for that community support. So that service is where someone living alone can get the benefit of having someone regularly in the house to kind of monitor the care package, to monitor their dementia, to check on any outside interactions that might be going on, any safeguarding concerns. As I said, that's totally a free service, but it's not a befriending service. So it's slightly different to befriend services. I'm sure everyone's heard of befriend. It's not literally just to go in and sit with someone and have a chat. It's a little bit more than that. We try to monitor to make sure that everything is going right for that person, and if not, then it goes back to the allocated caseworker, who will then take it forward and try and improve the situation for that person. We also have a fundraiser now, which we as an organisation haven't had for a long time. So that's pretty positive. So our fundraiser is in the process of, you know, coming up with projects and plans to try and improve the revenue that's coming forward to us. As I said, we've never had a fundraiser before, so we're really excited about that. Marketing person as well is coming on board. So we're trying as much as possible to improve our reputation in terms of how well known we are. We are very well known amongst certain groups, but we're trying to work, you know, a bit more further. And obviously this group we felt was quite a useful one to come along to, and kind of find out, you know, who's doing what in the area, how can we link together, how can we network. You know, our client or patient group is very niche. It's only dementia, and it's only people that have a diagnosis of dementia that we can support. But we also have to kind of come across mental health issues a lot as well, and that might be either in the person with dementia themselves or in their carer, or, you know, whoever is supporting them. So sometimes, you know, we need to signpost on, we need to know when something is getting a little bit more of an issue and that person needs to kind of get support. So yeah, we do deal with mental health a lot. Yeah, that's probably most of our services, I would say. I think if anyone has any kind of work that they're doing or knows of any events that they're doing that they want to let us know about as well, it'd be really good to kind of do a bit of joint working. Yeah, like I said, there are 7 of us in our team, our link team. We've all got a very large caseload, so we're looking at probably between 120 140 patients each. So yeah, we're quite busy, but yeah, we get by, and like I said, we do have a very good reputation in Ealing, and we work very closely with the mental health teams. I think that's probably enough from me, just a general kind of rundown of who I am and, you know, where I come from. And happy enough, you know, like I said, if anyone wants to contact me afterwards, if we can do any joint working, then I'd be really happy about that as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Donna. Did anybody have any questions for Donna? Yeah, go ahead, Gina.
Hi, Donna. I'm wondering, the cafes or the drop-ins that you run on the weekend sound interesting, and I'm wondering about transport, if people, how that's worked.
Yeah. So the weekends are not so much a drop-in. So they're not a drop-in service. People can't just kind of turn up. They have to be assessed by somebody within the charity. They then have to be referred, and then they kind of get a place. But transport is provided. Sometimes, you know, somebody might already have a carer that can bring them in and pick them up, and sometimes people prefer to do that. But for our patients that don't have anybody, to support them, then yes, we do provide transport there and food during the day and activities, and then lunch, sorry, not lunch, transport back as well. So yeah, it's a whole day thing, and it's a one fee for the whole day. And you know, as you can imagine, it's a very, very needed service. But yeah, transport is provided. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Hi, Donna. I'm
Hi, Jennifer.
curious and interested because I work in the memory service in Kensington, Chelsea, and Westminster. So I'd really like to speak with you outside of this meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. Give me a call. I can put my phone number in the chat.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Did anybody else have anything, Lucy? I see you've unmuted.
Well, I was just going to say that definitely I'll be in touch with Donna, because I think we're very much we'd be keen to support any people with respite. Just time away at the plot could help people who are caring for people with dementia. I think we've got quite a few carers that come to us for that. So
Okay, lovely. No, that would be great.
Okay, great. What I would say is, if you put your emails in the chat, then you guys can sort of connect outside of the meeting about, you know, possible collaborative working ideas and that sort of thing.
No worries, will do.
Thank you. Yeah, so there are no more questions for Donna. Okay, that's fine. Donna, I see you nodding. Yes, so I don't know if you all saw my email this morning. We had two other presenters on. Oh, are you sharing something, Marilee, or it's just a piece of paper? I couldn't tell if you were. Oh, I couldn't tell if you were trying to tell us something. Yes, so if you had seen my email, you'd have seen two of the presenters, unfortunately, have had to sort of send their apologies. Unfortunately, they had some pressing meetings to attend to, and there was an outbreak of COVID amongst an organisation, so they needed to sort of take on that extra load where volunteers weren't able to actually attend. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is move on to our sort of group feedback session. And through this sort of feedback session, what I would like to gain from everyone is their sort of overall experiences in regards to their organisation, you know, whether that's an increase in demand, or, you know, ideas you have to work collaboratively, or, you know, extra support, whether that's funding or venues or anything like that. That's the sort of aim. Just to double check, has anybody tried to open the Jamboard? And if so, was you able to see the Jamboard? Yeah, see some thumbs up.
I haven't tried just yet.
Yeah, if everyone could try, that would be fantastic. Yes, so I assume everyone's been able to access it. Yeah, so if you look at the first page of the Jamboard, obviously you will see there's a question, excuse my misspell, around your sort of how significant is mental health an issue for your service and demand. So that could be, you know, whether the clients you're taking on has increased overall, or, you know, if you don't necessarily work with people with mental health, if you are seeing an increase in people that are accessing your services that have, you know, had mental health issues or are suffering with their mental health. So what I would like you guys to do is take a sticky note. I've put a little yellow one in there to keep it color coordinated. So if you can use a yellow sticky note, that would be fantastic. And just put any points that you have around this question in there. I'll give you guys around 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll sort of come back and I'll share some of the points, and then if anyone wants to elaborate on anything, that would be fantastic. So I'm giving you all 2 or 3 minutes. I'm looking forward to seeing everything pop up. Do let me know as well if you have any questions around the question itself.
I'm not sure I'm able to.
Yeah, I've just got view only. I think.
Oh,
yes, I think I need some access.
It
I
says
can't access it either. No.
Oh, okay. Hang on one second.
so that we can edit.
Let me try and do that.
Maybe we'll see some post-its to grab.
Yeah. How do I do that now? I did it earlier, but
I think I can ask for edit access. That might come up.
Yeah, it says request edit access, and then I clicked on that and it says there's been a request sent to you.
Okay, hang on. I've changed it, so now see if you can edit it, because I have changed it to editor.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
I've done a refresh and it's come up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think I may have been wasn't on the original email, so I haven't received it.
I'll send the link again in the chat.
I can access that now.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I can see some messages, some sticky notes have popped up. Interesting that someone has said they've received more mail referrals. I don't know who posted that, it doesn't tell me, but
that was me. Lucy.
Did you want to say any more about that, Lucy?
Well, what we're finding is really that male referrals, we're getting lots of male referrals via the Mint team, which is great. But it means that they are, they tend to have, pretty difficult histories, and they need a lot more support. But also we're finding they're much harder to get along to the plot. So we're really wanting to make that a focus of the next few months. There are generally more men coming to visit us on the plot, so they are getting through, but what we're finding is attendance is quite sort of up and down. It's quite patchy, and we know that when we don't see them, we need to follow up with that, and so engagement is much more important. I guess the positive is that there are more men talking about their mental health, but it feels like their problems are, I'm not saying they're more significant, but I think they're feeling much more alone than perhaps women do with their mental health.
Thank you for that, Lucy. I think for the most part, what I could kind of gather is that, groups are seeing people come through with more complex sort of mental health needs, and mainly sort of after COVID, which, I mean, I don't necessarily, work with people with mental health issues, although I would say that even in my role as a volunteer coordinator or a manager, I've seen an increase in our volunteers. Gina, I can see you've got your hand up.
Yeah,
I'll go to you next, Steve.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Hi, Lucy. I'm one of those people from Mint who does refer people over. I often recommend people self-refer, have some agency over what they want to do. So it's just interesting to hear your comment, and is there something that, is there something that we can support with, or is there some way we can,
So we're putting the case. I don't think Bushra is still here. I'm not sure if she is, but we're already in discussion, really, to see if there's any more. I guess what we'd like is to dedicate more befriending resource time to be able to support people in, through everything. And I think actually we're set up to be able to really study the situation in a bit more detail, really. So I think we've seen that there's certainly from a fundraising point of view, we've seen that there's been a where all the fundraising sort of trends were around cost of living, actually suddenly a lot of funding seems to be available for suicide prevention, and I think it's all part of the same problem. I think I think they've realized that cost of living, it's not just a physical life and death situation, it's a mental life and death situation, so it's pretty different out there. But I guess that I think as long as we're all just aware of it, I think what's really different, when we set up our men's group, we had a lot of women saying, oh, why do men get a group, and actually we were able to say that, at that time, which was about a year and a half ago, there were far more women accessing support, and men were largely outnumbered in our groups, and so it was good to be able to give them a safe space to be able to do that. But actually, I think what has made us aware over the last year of having a men's group is really that although you could argue there's still lots of problems, there's lots of inequality, things that haven't been resolved between men and women. If you're a man struggling with your mental health, then that needs addressing. This kind of toxic masculinity thing it must be a dreadful thing to have to live with if you're struggling with your mental health as a man. So that's where we're at, looking after everybody. But yes, also specifically looking for more resource to be able to do that, because I think we have gathered quite a few learnings over the last year or so.
Great, thank you for that, Lucy and Gina. Steve, so you got your hand up.
Yep. I mean, my observation would simply be that in terms of our more generic services, they've always had the subtext of high levels of mental health issues with our service users. In our generic food and support services, for example, which are housing related support, anywhere from 40 to 80% of our clients at any given time have got certainly mental health issues. And the work we do with our STEP service, which is about just going out and messaging around mental health and trying also to get people with lived experience of mental health to engage in the service. And we're certainly seeing people coming forward, even just to volunteer, who have seem to have much higher levels of mental health difficulties. And both here and in other boroughs, we're also seeing what I think is quite a big unmet demand for counselling services around mental health. And I know that we've obviously heard that IAPT are changing the breadth of their work, because one of the problems that we found traditionally was we were either finding that our service users who we were attempting to refer for mental health counselling were deemed either to have insufficient needs or too high needs. It seemed to be a very narrow band where counselling was available. And my own view, and I'm not a counsellor, I will put my hands up and say this now, but my own view is that the historic, shall we say, limitations when counselling is being offered are frankly little narrow and a little unhelpful. Perhaps someone else in the room might care to object to that analysis, but that's what I think.
Thank you for your point, Steve. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to sort of share around that that first question? No. Okay, great. Now, if you go back to the Jamboard, you will see at the top you can move over to the second page. And then the question for that is, are you seeing an increase in demand for your services? So yeah, it's just it's around, you know, is overall, have you seen way more people accessing your services? You know, if you work with young people, you don't work with young people, but you're having sort of people trying to access your service that, you know, are older or younger, or, you know, that sort of thing. Is there been an increase? And, you know, if you could elaborate further on, you know, what that increase has been like, that would be great. I will give a further 2 or 3 minutes for that as well. Just to double check, everyone can move over to the next page, can't they? Okay, cool. Okay. I'll just have a read through and pick a couple out. I can see someone has said, yes, we have seen an increase in demand, which has resulted in longer waiting times. Did somebody want to elaborate on that? Like, what was your previous waiting times, as opposed to sort of what it's looking like now? Oh, was it you, Colby? Because you're on mute.
Okay, sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we did see a big increase in demand during COVID times. You know, that time it just went through the roof. Also because not only Ealing clients, but you know, people from everywhere around the country were you know, trying to get some help. But in recent times, we've seen that there is an increase in demand, you know, from Ealing as well, and which then results in, because I mean, our resources are the same, you know, there hasn't been an increase in resources, that just results in longer waiting time. So people are then quite frustrated because they don't want to wait for weeks on end, you know. At one point, I think it was 12 to 14 weeks or even longer. And, you know, we've been trying actively to reduce that waiting time. Because when people need help, they don't want to wait forever. You know, that's it.
Yeah, go ahead, Lucy.
Just to say that we don't have any waiting time. So if anybody finds that they've got a long wait for counselling, we can be quite a good place to come to tide you over. Just as gentle distraction, really.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucy. Someone has said, as part of a local church group, there is a wide age range. People are feeling more comfortable and sharing more of their needs and / concerns. Would somebody want to, whoever said that, would you like to elaborate on that? I mean, I think it's quite interesting because, I mean, it in terms of my sort of daily experiences at work, I'm seeing a complete opposite, but maybe, you know, a church group is more of a safe space that people feel like they can express those concerns. But for us, especially in terms of younger people, you know, they're not necessarily the people that we sort of come in contact with that have not necessarily been that open about expressing any sort of concerns or struggles that they may be having. Jennifer, you've unmuted. Was that you that put that post in? Yeah, do you want to say a bit more about that?
Yeah. So most of the young people that are with us, they have families. So even if they don't directly say, then you're able to get to them through the families. I find that I like talking to the younger ones. So if you approach them with their interest, whether it's football, whether it's their school, whether it's their exam, then it's easier to kind of get into if they have things going on. So it's like building a relationship first, and then they're comfortable with expressing what their struggles are.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Steve, I saw your message that you can't, you can move over, but you can't write. Did you have a point that you wanted to say on that? Oh, you're still on mute.
I would say that, reference my previous one, we haven't necessarily seen an increase in demand for example, our general housing services. And the sort of the reconfiguration of the inpatient mental health care has actually meant that in a way that has slowed down referrals to our service, because the people who are now getting hospital beds in West London, the needs level of those people is probably increased. When they do come, they're more they definitely have higher levels of needs. The previous statement I made about seeing an increase for demand for people for mental health counselling, that's certainly the case. We don't actually provide mental health counselling in Ealing, so it's something we actually notice that perhaps even more than the demand for the services we do deliver. And similarly, whenever we're doing our outreach to the STEP service, what we're finding is more people expressing concerns about how they access service, particularly digital exclusion to service. The fact that every application form these days is an online form, things like that. That's where we see concerns raising themselves. I don't know if any of my colleagues want to add anything that regarding the floating support service, or perhaps stick something in the chat. But certainly, we are seeing different kinds of change in demand.
I think that's interesting what you're saying about accessing support, because we're getting a lot of people who are struggling to get hold of their GPs. And, you know, I think particularly if mental health is at the root of your troubles, being asked to hang on for, you know, maybe a week for a chat with your GP, it just seems huge. And I don't know, it'd be good to hear a few other thoughts on that one, really, just for the first port of call, really.
Yeah, I think it is quite interesting. It's an interesting point you made, Steve, about, you know, digital exclusion. I think that has played a massive impact in people feeling like they're able to actually access services, especially if a lot of the forms are online, or say they can refer themselves online, however they don't have access to devices and all that sort of stuff. That does play a massive impact on people being able to actually, you know, access these vital services that they're actually, you know, in desperate need of. So it's interesting to sort of, you know,
I was going to say that one of the things we've done in response to that is that some of our volunteers in our STEP services have been specifically charged with providing a IT drop-in where people can come in either to get help to get online, or to have a space in which they can actually do something like fill in a form, or make it, you know, send an email to their GP or whatever. Because again, the way the online people have been pushed towards online health issues can be problematic for some people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the things that we were running within our organization was Reclaim It sort of service, where people were able to access devices had they been referred through a particular organization and that sort of thing, which we found quite helpful. We've managed to distribute hundreds of devices. And obviously part of that process is in well-being and mental health check-ins, where people can say, okay, how has this actually benefited them? And for the most part, a lot of the feedback has been around, well, actually, I've been able to, you know, apply for X, Y, and Z that I probably wouldn't have been able to do before, or even stuff as simple as send emails and that sort of thing. So I think it's a very interesting point that you made there, Steve.
I mean, Tamara, who's on the call, is but unable to speak, has taken the lead with us in dealing with that. So we've worked on that, and it has.
Oh, we just missed you. It went back on mute again.
I'm over keen on the mute. I just said it has been extremely helpful to those service users who participate.
Yes, exactly. Did anybody else have any sort of other points that they wanted to share around that? I know Marilla, you work predominantly around, you know, sort of newly settled residents. Is there anything that, you know, you're sort of seeing in terms of that?
Yes, I feel we see increasing number of vulnerable people who are struggling with cost of living, housing costs, rent areas, and as you mentioned as well, we've got query about GP access too, and they asking us to support yes, because they are unable to access the services. Yes.
I think, you know, I ran a project some time ago where it was about feedback in terms of residents and how their experiences of accessing GPs, and that was definitely one of their concerns, was about, you know, they're not able to access their GP, or they can't get hold of them on the phone, they've had long waiting lists and so on and so forth. So that definitely has been an increased issue, which will obviously have, you know, effects on people's overall health, mental health and well-being.
Yes. Yes, and plus a language barrier, which is really for some of vulnerable elderly or people with on low incomes. They don't, the English is not their first language, and lack of the skills is a big barrier for them to access a GP or whichever service. So they always need our support or interpreter service.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to move on. However, I think I'm going to jump to question 4, if we could, only because I think it more closely relates to the discussion that we've been having. So I'll give you guys another 2 minutes or so. Steve, if you still can't access or still can't write a sticky note, just put something in the chat and then we can, I'll pick it up. Okay, thank you guys for that. I've seen some very good points on there. I was drawn to one. Well, I was drawn to a couple, but I'll talk about one. And it says, don't get bogged down in who funds what, more co-creation of services and comms to help understand how best to tell people about what support is out there. I don't know who put that point in, but if
That was
you
me.
could. Thanks, Anna.
Yeah. So I think often when we are working as services offering our support out, we get a little kind of like, oh, our service does this, and we have lots of meetings where we come together, and there is obviously clear funding and structures around what we do, and you can work here, we can do that, you must have this, you must have these eligibility criteria, and I think it can, when you see that collected, it gets very overwhelming as professionals working in this kind of sphere anyway, and it can feel complicated and hard to navigate. And I think that's partly why lots of people say to us, we don't know how to access this. It seems like there's stuff on, but we don't know where it is. We don't know who's doing what. We don't know what we can have. So actually, I think we need to do much more with our service users to bring people together to actually help us understand how we communicate effectively. Because as professionals, I think our starting point is quite often, here we are, I'm from this service, here's what we do, this is how we're funded, this is our project that lasts for X number of years, or however long we've got the funding for, and this is what we're aiming to achieve, which is all fine. But if you're a parent or a child, a young person, or anybody trying to access mental health services, really what you want to know is which bit of it is for me, and how can I get it now? And I don't think we're very good at thinking with that hat on as service users often. And I think we would benefit more from that kind of co-creation approach. And across groups like this, doing, a kind of a joint project together would be amazing. A kind, to think about how we can broaden the conversations around mental health. Some areas I've already said, people are actually opening up and being more honest or more able to talk about mental health issues, while others are saying, oh no, that's not the case here. Or in some areas you can have immediate access and speak to someone, and some you have to join a waiting list, or so that it would something about bringing people together and actually hearing a different type of voice throughout those, helping us communicate what's happening, I think would be really beneficial.
Yeah, I think that's very true, Anna. Thank you for sharing or elaborating on your point. I did also see that you put something in the chat about the hubs across the borough. So I don't know if you have much information about that at the moment, but if you could share some information that I can then share to the group so that they can, pass that on to their clients and service users, etc., that would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, so council has all kinds of hubs, and we're doing a piece of work on this, because the problem is everyone calls everything a hub.
Yeah.
And the more hubs you have,
the
less like a hub it is.
Exactly.
So we're actually trying to understand what all the hubs are. But yes, there are community hubs now in various venues where people can get access to advice and information from the council and key parts of the services. We're developing family hubs, where people can access any services 0 to 19 or up to 25 with additional needs, and then obviously all of the rest of the hubs that kind of flow from their housing hubs, child health hubs, and various other different places like that. So there are lots of information again, and the problem is a bit of overwhelm, I think, in this. And I do think, as I'm from Ealing Council, I do think the council don't get the comms right often. I'm also a resident, and it is hard to navigate sometimes. And that's why I was saying, we are talking about whether actually what we need is that kind of navigator type role that will help you find which hub you meant to, is best for you, or where you can get the advice you need, so we can actually try and advise people better first time round, instead of people getting frustrated with trying to find help and not quite getting there.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. Steve, I saw your message about would it be a hubcap? And Tamara, you said having mental health practitioners based in every GP surgery, even for a few days a week, would be quite helpful. Gina, go ahead.
Well, the West London NHS does have mental health practitioners in the GP surgeries, but obviously it's somehow the message is not getting there. I can see Steve is probably just as well he's got the mute on. I don't know. Anyhow, so their job is to link between the Mint teams, and they both they're assigned to various GP surgeries. I'm just looking up at the board here.
Are they the social prescribers, Gina?
They're
Something different again.
Yeah, there's something slightly different, but yeah, no, they're more on the mental health side of things. So they're Mars workers, and I'm just trying to look on our notice board to see what that stands for. But anyhow, yeah, so they do actually go around GP surgeries. I was working with a client once. I had a referral from what they call the one of these workers, and I went to see them in the GP surgery, and they also come to the multidisciplinary team meetings in their host Mint team. So yeah, I'll see if I can figure out what the acronym stands for and put it in the chat.
So what are the letters of the acronym? And I'm going to go Google it.
Frances, go ahead. I think I saw you put your hand
Hi,
up.
so sorry I joined the party very late here this morning, and my name's Frances, and I help run a small drop-in cafe based at Haven Green Baptist Church in Ealing for people struggling with loneliness and mental health issues. We've been running for 2 years. And we're only open on a Monday morning, so it's very small, but we have a regular influx of people who come. Some come regularly, others come for a few weeks and go again, or sometimes come back again. But the fact is that they know we're there. However, when we talk about all the services out there, and we do have a directory of, because we like to signpost, because we're not claiming to be a mental health service or mental health professionals, but it is a bit of a minefield for volunteers like us. And what was said just before I spoke proves the point entirely. There are all these acronyms. Nobody quite understands what they mean. Nobody quite understands who's responsible for what. I speak as a recently retired GP practice nurse, and I'm still in touch with my practice. And in a couple of weeks' time, I've got to lead an education session on how to look after your mental health for patients. Again, it's a drop-in, but patients will have received a sort of text invitation if they're interested in coming. I've got some guys from Mind coming along to talk. But I'm sure the question is going to come up, well, how do we access help if we need it? What do social prescribers do? What do the mental health practitioners do? You know, this sort of thing. So I don't know how we disseminate that information, but actually, even for those of us who are just kind of dipping our toes into this huge thing, it would be good to be more educated in what's out there, how we can signpost people, and what everybody's role is, because, you know, having come from an NHS background, I'm quite confused myself. We have had social prescribers bring clients along, and it's great, and I've really appreciated the contact that we've had with them, but it's all a little bit of a minefield.
Thank you for that point. And I think what we've kind of got from the meeting is that there needs to be some form of public or you know, even if it's something that we can share through this forum, that details, these are the organizations, these are the services that everyone kind of has access to. So in the event, you know, you're working with a client that doesn't necessarily fit into your sort of processing, or, you know, doesn't qualify to access your services, here's another service you can actually access in the event. Or like Steve and Lucy said earlier, if you're waiting, here's Lucy's Mind Food service that you can actually access while you're waiting to be seen by a different organisation. I think that's a great point, Francis.
Big
Steve,
shout for Mind Food. I was
yes.
just saying, several of the folk that come to us go to Mind Food, and we get very positive feedback. So thank you, Lucy.
Steve, is that a new hand you have up?
It is actually.
Yes, that's right.
Although I am very bad at removing old hands. I was going to make an observation, which actually what Francis said is actually kind of tuned in with that a bit. Jojo and I went to, in the interest of networking, actually went to the North Mints team meeting while we were there, and I hadn't heard about them before. One of the Mint team said, "Oh, have you talked to GPs, Mars workers? There's 2 surgeries, 3 surgeries downstairs at the Grand Union Health Centre." Being interested, I, of course, went down to the reception of the surgery in question, said, could you put me in contact with your Mars worker? And the receptionist didn't know what a Mars worker was. So I think that kind of makes the point that Francis was saying about when she was embedded in GP surgeries, the messaging about what's out there wasn't getting through to the staff in the surgeries. And, this surgery, I'm absolutely certain that if the Mint team think this surgery had a Mars worker, they did. But the other people working in the surgery weren't aware of it. So I think if we have that issue, if the people within the health service don't know everything that's happening, there's very little chance of the public having the full picture. So there is something about how we disseminate information internally within our organizations and between our organizations.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Steve. And like you said, if internally they don't know, who's doing what, it's not, the likelihood of the public coming in and being able to figure that out is, somewhat slim. Thank you, Gina, for feeding that point back as well. Jan, did you have a question? I see your hand up.
I do. It strikes me, I've been in the NHS and the mental health team for a year now, that the comment that Steve was just making, there's actually, it's a very crowded, quite competitive place to let people know that your service exists. We struggle with that. I'm hearing that Steve's, and I just wonder whether it wouldn't be a useful opportunity to say, can there not be a better hub for the reuse of that word to centralize the different types of services, what the referral criteria are, and just as a way of so many different service providers representing service users being able to access the relevant one, because we get inappropriate referrals, and I'm sure you all do as well, that I don't know, this is real blue sky stuff in terms of just being able to access something more central, rather than I've got a random collection and then I'll mention it to a colleague and they'll say, oh, but there's somebody else that's also providing a service. Enough, I think I've made my point.
Yes, yeah, that's very true. I think, Anna, you did put something in the chat.
Yeah, so this is an NHS resource which was shared with me recently, which I hadn't seen before, but it pulls together different options for mental health support. So I don't think it's, obviously it's not exhaustive. There'll be many more services to go in that, but it's a good start to see it. But again, I work very closely with health colleagues on my programme and across children's services, and this was new to me, and we need to encourage people to use it and use the same resource, I suppose, because we all, as I think I said in the chat earlier, we constantly create directories after directories, and we all say, oh, let's have this amazing kind of one space where you can get all this information. And the fact is that people, unless they trust your organisation or the person who's creating the directory, and it's kind of shown to be integrated into all of our services, they're not going to use it. They won't believe that it's up to date. They won't think it's good information. So it's about building relationships between ourselves and then with our communities to get people to understand where to access help.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Anna. Just as a point, I put a link for a sort of web page called Wellbeing West London. I don't know if anyone's heard of it or come across it, but this was something I had come across as part of our sort of NHS GP feedback sessions, and we were just sort of giving the link to residents. And you can sort of use it, put in what you're looking for. So if it's mental health services, you can put mental health, you can put in your sort of postcode, and it will bring in a range of sort of mental health services that you can actually access within, or that are local to the postcode that you put in. Obviously, it's not necessarily convenient for everyone to have to do that in the response of you having a client and so on and so forth. But it is another thing that you could sort of share with people if you deem it's helpful. Lucy, you just put something in. What's that? Oh, you're on mute.
I'll never get it. I was just mucking around to see if Mind Food were on it. I forgot I'd done an interview with them. But yes, it does look a very good resource though.
Yes. Yeah, it does. Yeah, so I'm conscious of time. We'll quickly go to the last, which is actually the third question. And it's just about sort of how you prioritize. I know some of you guys have a waiting list. And what are sort of the priorities around that? So if you had somebody, say, for example, come in with severe, mental health needs, or has recently had an episode, for example, would they be pushed to the top of the list, or would they still remain at the place that they were referred on, if that makes sense? So I'll just give a couple of minutes for that. Again, I know some of you have already put some pointers in there. What's this trying to delete? While we're doing that, I've just seen an interesting point in there. It says there have been difficulties with gaining the correct info from SPA, who are an important factor and connection in mental health, and this is a little concerning. I don't know who put that in, but if you could elaborate further, that would be fantastic. I'm not sure I know what or who SPA is, to be honest. Nobody want to elaborate on that?
on SPA for a second. We've had a couple of people feedback not so great experiences of single point of access service. And I was just wondering who I would feed that back to. I wondered if anybody knows.
No, I'm not sure. What I can do though is sort of look through my contact list and see if. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Gina.
I can figure out who that is, if that helps.
That'd be great.
If you want to send me stuff, and I can just forward it. Just obviously give your details so that they can, if they want to talk to you or whatever, please.
Brilliant, thanks.
Okay, no worries. I'll put my emails on the thing, but I'll put my email in anyway. I just was looking for something else.
Okay, did anybody have anything they wanted to say around that last question? I see, Susan, you said that the previous point about SPA was that the staff weren't always up to date. Let me see. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Gina. Okay, if nobody wanted to sort of, elaborate on any points or share their points around that last sort of question, we will move on. Before we do move on, in sort of wrapping up the session, we'll have a short sort of any other business if anyone in the group's got anything to share. I just wanted to sort of bring it back to the reason why I've sort of taken the opportunity to do this this sort of feedback session. And I am going to be doing a sort of short presentation as part of Ealing's local strategic partnership meeting. And, it would just be fantastic to be able to feedback some of you guys' points, to be able to share with them. And, if we can come to a sort of better arrangement, even if it's around just sharing everyone's information and a platform to do that, that would be fantastic. But, this is just an opportunity for me to share everyone's feedback, and hopefully, we can work better collaboratively in the future to, sort of lower those demands on mental health services and within your organizations and that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's just a bit of a point. Oh, someone's got their hand up. Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
So it's just oh, great, that sounds great. And I wonder whether like I said earlier about that kind of co-production idea, whether something that we could do would be to come together as a, I suppose, more of a kind of, it's not really a conference, but a more of a kind of a focused event, but perhaps in person, that we can, and then maybe take some time to look at some case studies together of our service users and our stories that we've seen, so we can talk about where our services might have had an impact or not, or could have had an impact, but we didn't know each other at that point. You know what I mean? It's something that's quite based on the actual work of helping people that we're trying to do. And again, it's trying to then understand where additional voices and whose additional voices need to be heard in this to better support us. But you know, an event that is focused on mental health in the borough, I think, would be great, and a kind of a call to action for anyone working or volunteering in this sector to come together and hear from different services, hear different evidence about what works for different people, hear different projects, hear from service users directly, have an opportunity to talk about things like communicating and, you know, directories and things like that would be brilliant. I think would be really kind of useful and uplifting as an experience to pull in all this, because it does feel immense, doesn't it? And it yeah, to be in one space together would be fantastic. Just a thought, sorry.
No, it's a great point, and it's funny that you said that, because actually part of my sort of any other business was going to be around you know, holding our forum in person at, you know, it wouldn't be every month, but, you know, say every 3 months or every 6 months we'd host a forum actually in person. So it's interesting that you said that, because obviously part of holding it in person would be you know, how that would look like and what everyone would actually like to see out of an in-person sort of forum. So what I will be doing is sending round a sort of short feedback survey form to everyone as part of the mailing list to say, you know, would you be interested in attending our forum online? And if so, do you have any ideas around what you would actually like that to look like in terms of services, organizations? If you know, want to hear some experiences from residents, that sort of thing. So I think it's quite interesting that you said that. Gina, you said Val Wilson, the previous commissioner, used to help. Yeah, yes, exactly. I remember, because when I first started volunteering for the organisation, actually that was when Val was hosting it, and I worked with a previous colleague around that. So she did do the forums in person, which were always quite good. And I think what had happened, obviously COVID hit, they wanted to continue on with the forum. But I think it's about time to sort of, you know, get back to some, at least some. I can't promise that they'll all be in person, but at least, you know, every other 3 months or every other 6 months or whatever that might look like, that we actually host these forums online, get everyone in one room, you know, we'd still have similar sort of presentations and so on and so forth, but you know, it would be interesting to hear from everybody as to what they might like that to look like. So yeah, that's something I will be sending around shortly, because I think if we was to do it in person, the next one would obviously be sometime in the new year, either in February or March. That's sort of month that we would be looking to host the in-person session. So moving on to any other business, did anybody have anything that they wanted to share in terms of points, comments, anything about local, anything about your events or anything that you're hosting that you would like to share with the group before we close? No? Yeah. No one's got any points. But to say, if anybody does have anything that they would like for me in terms of their services, events, drop-in sessions, whatever it might be that you would like for me to actually distribute as part of this mailing list, then please do send it to me. And then I can sort of send it out to the whole mailing list. That would be fantastic. Okay, so if nobody has any other questions or comments, I'm going to close the meeting today. It was a pleasure seeing you all. I hope to see you guys at the next one. And thank you so much for sharing your feedback as well. That's so helpful. And I kind of look forward to feeding that back at the LSB in November.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Whitley.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
much.
Okay, thanks,
Take
Whitney.
care.
Bye.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.